Greetings and salutations, everyone. Tonight I'm going to bring you 3 terrifyingly true Dogman encounters. I'd also like to throw a shout out to a talented author and friend of mine named Jarvis B. He is in Washington State right now, and he keeps sending me stuff of Bigfoot. So tomorrow night, in honor of Jarvis, I'm going to do a video show dedicated just to Sasquatch. And real brief, my second channel's link is in the description if you're into creepypastas or voice acting. Also, my PayPal link is in the description to help keep this channel commercial free. My merch link is in the description also. That's a way of helping keep this channel commercial free. And with that, let's just get on with the Dogman encounter, shall we? Our first Dogman encounter of the evening comes to us from northeastern Utah, the summer of 2003. This is my brother's experience, not mine, but he said I could share it with you. Summer of 2003, I think it was July, northeastern Utah. It was fully dark, so it must have been late, but he doesn't remember the exact time. They were living in a house towards the western edge of town, just to set the scene. So they're still in a neighborhood, but this is a rural town, so the only traffic out there is people who live on that street. They're either the second or third house on the corner heading away from town. There's a streetlight on the corner, a partially wooded field with a pretty old abandoned house across the street, and a house next to the field. He was sitting on the porch, smoking and reading a book when he heard a weird sound from up the street. He looked towards the street and didn't see anything at first. He said the sound was like when you have a big dog that's really pulling hard on the leash, panting and choking, kind of, but it was very loud. He kept watching, and after a few seconds he sees this thing moving from the end of the street towards the corner. He said it was blacker than the darkness. The porch light didn't reach past the edge of the yard, so he didn't really see much detail, but it was big. It had 4 legs, or 2 legs and 2 arms, but it kind of moved like a gorilla, sometimes on all 4s and sometimes 2, but hunched over. The whole time it was making a panting, slobbering noise, and it moved down the street in front of him. As it gotten even with the edge of their yard closest to the corner, it started veering towards their side of the street, and that was the point my brother decided to run. Let me explain that my brother is a big guy. He's very level-headed, and he is not afraid of anything. Even when we were kids, he just wasn't afraid of anything. Not the dark, not ghosts, not anything, ever. He believes in the paranormal, but it doesn't scare him. He is just calm and always in control. And he saw this thing getting closer, and he ran inside, yelling for my sister-in-law to keep the dogs inside. She told me later that his face was white, and he was fumbling as he was picking up his gun, and his voice was shaking. He told her, "Something's outside, keep the dogs in here." Their roommate was home, and he grabbed a gun also, and they went back outside, but it was gone. He described it to me as a cross between an ape and a dog, but the size of a horse, and said if he had to compare it to any known creature, it would be a werewolf. I'm visiting a week or so later, and my sister-in-law and I ran to get a pack of cigarettes. On the way back, we passed 3 cop cars pulled off to the side of the road. They had their spotlights trained on the field, and let me stress, this is a very small town. They don't have many cops, and not much happens out here, but here are 3 patrol cars all looking for something in the field just down the road from my brother's house. When we got to the corner by the house, there was a Jeep and a truck stopped in the middle of the intersection under the streetlight. Windows were down because late summer in the desert, so we could hear these guys in the 2 vehicles talking to each other. Actually, they were almost yelling and sounding pretty excited. "Did you see that? What the fuck was that?" We're pretty sure we knew what they were talking about, so we turned into the driveway and ran into the house while they were still stopped there. So there was witnesses in case of any weird creatures trying to grab us. Our second Dogman encounter of the night comes to us from Chicago. Just as a preface, I live in the suburbs of Chicago. My city is highly suburbanized and is highly populated. Despite this, there are areas in the city that are not so city-like. These events took place near a major road in a kind of rural section of the town. 2 nights ago, around 9 p.m., I was driving home with my girlfriend. We were talking about a TV show we both enjoyed and just making general small talk. Near my house, there's a certain road that just always made me feel extremely uncomfortable. The road has no streetlights and is hard to see in. All of the lights from the surrounding area seems to be drowned out due to the densely wooded area. Accompanying the array of trees are some small houses. Most of them are in the state of despair, and a number of them are vacant. With this area being kind of chilling at night, I always turn on my high beams on our drive down there. As we're about halfway down the road, I notice something dart from the edge of the road into some hedges. What I saw wasn't exactly pleasant to look at. Even with my limited view, my headlights illuminated the bottom half of the creature. Due to it being fairly tall and fairly down the road, due to this, I couldn't see the whole thing, but what I did see, I remember vividly. The creature was gangly. It was about 6 to 7 feet and looked to be starved. I could make out its ribs underneath its tight skin. Its fur was very short, like that of an otter, and covered all of what I could see. Its knees were pointed backwards, sort of like a bird's, and its feet seemed to be pawed like a dog, only they were massive. Even more horrifying were the long, skinny arms. I couldn't see its hands, but just from seeing those arms, I didn't want to know what was attached to those things. From looking at the hips, I could tell that it walked either upright or something very similar to that. Its back was at a 45-degree angle to its legs, but was curved instead of straight. The way it ran was like a person over-exaggerating a tiptoe, like what you'd see on a Tom and Jerry cartoon. This creature was less like one animal and more like a conglomerate of many others. When I saw this thing, I went silent. I didn't know what to do, so I just kept silent and kept driving. I looked back in my rearview mirrors, but only darkness looked back. I couldn't see anything. My girlfriend could see that I was visibly shaken and aloft in conversation. Apparently, she didn't notice whatever the hell that thing was and didn't know why I was acting so odd. At first, she didn't believe me, but as I gave more and more detail while showing more and more fear, she knew I was telling the truth. I was understandably uneasy for the rest of the night. When I told my account to one of my friends who lived in the area, he reminded me of an event that took place back in August, one street over from my sighting. There was a bloodied and skinny animal on the side of the road. We both drove by it a few times because it was there for a few days. Whatever the poor animal was, we didn't know. It was too badly mangled to be recognized. We think that the animal might have been a raccoon or a dog. Hopefully, these two events are unrelated. Our third and final Dogman encounter comes to us from Apalachicola, Florida. Now, I did a story about this same exact incident, but now I have a little bit more detail on it. So, here goes. It was 1998. I was 37 years old, and I had been working with the forest department for 12 years. There was a fire in the Apalachicola National Forest that summer. The Bradwell Bay area was on fire when all of this happened. The fire was raging pretty bad at this point. We didn't know if we'd ever get it out. That morning, I had reported to Command Center on Helengard Station Road to get briefed on what I would be doing that day. So me and another guy were given the task of driving around looking for animals along the road on Bradwell Bay area. Animals would make it to the road and usually fall out if they were injured or had a real bad smoke inhalation. Our job was to pick them up and take them to the vets at the command center. The vets would treat them and, on some occasion, euthanize the ones that wouldn't make it. So we're driving around the area, heading south, doing about 45, faster than I should have been driving. I was talking to my partner and didn't realize how fast I was going. All of a sudden, we saw a black figure run out of the woods on all fours. It ran right into the driver's side tire. I hit the animal with both of the front and back tires. I was driving a 95 Dodge Ram 4x4, so I knew at that speed I had killed it. Immediately, we thought it was a bear. We got out of the pickup and went to look for the bear and put it on the truck. Upon further investigation, we realized that I had hit was not a bear at all. It was a creature that neither one of us had ever seen. It was about 6 feet tall. It had legs, kneecaps, and feet, just like you or I. The arms hung about to its knee. One arm, a matter of fact, was down by its knee. The other one was over its head. I had ran the creature over under its right underarm, across the shoulder blade, and over the back of its neck. The creature was covered in hair, about 3 to 5 inches long on the arms, legs, and head. The hair on its back ribs and chest was much shorter. The muscle definition on this animal was phenomenal. It looked like a prize fighter or one of the guys you'd see in the UFC. We flipped the animal over. The jaw was broken from where I had hit it with the truck. I could see, though it had protruding snout, much like that of a baboon, or what you would think a werewolf looks like. It had eyes just like us. The thing looked a lot like a chimpanzee. I quickly radioed into Command Center, and they sent 2 FWC officials out to our location within about 15 minutes. The FWC officials arrived, and they told us they had never seen anything like it, so we all picked the animal up and loaded it into the back of their truck. The animal weighed about 300 to 400 pounds, which is dead weight. They told us that they would figure out what it was and let us know. So we had been contacted by Command Center at this point, and they told us to come on back and make a statement about what we saw. So we showed up at the Command Center, and immediately we were brought to the back room where we were filled out an incident report. We were there for about 10 minutes into the incident report when we were asked to stop and wait, and that there were some people coming to see us. Within about 30 to 45 minutes, 2 government officials showed up. They walked us out to the vehicle. They were asking where we ran it over. We told them where it was, and so they examined the area. The truck had no damage. There was a black steel bumper in the front. The animal had hit the bottom of that, and the tires took care of the rest. There was really nothing on the truck except for the undercarriage. There seemed to be blood and hair. The officials collected the blood and hair samples and put them away. Next, they asked if we would go into the vehicle that they came in and take them to the location where we had ran over the animal. So we all piled into their vehicle and left with the gentleman. It was a rather quiet ride back out to the spot. They didn't say much at all except for a couple of exchanges with each other. We showed up at the spot and walked them through what happened. Then all of a sudden one of these guys, I guess the guy in charge, turned and looked at us and said, "Congratulations, fellas. You ran over a bear." I said, "Sir, but it's no bear that I've ever seen that we hit." He quickly interrupted me. "You don't understand. You ran over a bear." He then said that every time I tell anybody about that I ran over a bear, I was never to speak a word about what I actually hit, that I could face charges. My whole retirement could go away. They said I could lose my job and that they would slander me and make me look like a fool. So I looked at my partner and we had no other choice but to comply. On the ride back, it kind of struck me as odd that this was an actual government cover-up. They knew what this thing was that we had hit. They had seen them before and now they were in possession of the body. For some reason, they didn't want anyone to know, and they were going to great lengths keeping it under wraps. The main reason I'm telling this story is I'm hoping to one of the other 3 people, my partner and the 2 FWC officials, will come forward also. I figure it's a lot harder to silence 4 people than just 1. People need to know that these things are out there and they are real. With that, guys, I want to bid you farewell for the evening. 2 stories, 2 nights. Hell yeah, I'm coming back, guys. Sorry for being a little rusty, but I'm getting better every day. And with that, have a good night.